Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome the Porsche with perhaps the longest and most complicated name. This is a Porsche Cayenne Turbo Coupe e-hybrid with GT package. Because here in the UK, we can't get the Cayenne Turbo GT, but what you can get is the Cayenne e-hybrid with all the bits on it that make it look like a Turbo GT. But that is an e-hybrid Cayenne, the coupe version, so a sleeker back, but the headline grabbing figures. It has 739 horsepower and 950 Newton meters of torque. And even though it's an SUV, it will get from 0 to 62 in just 3.6 seconds. So yes, welcome to the UK and autumn. It has been a foul day for weather today. Lots of rain, very low light conditions, and the light is fading fast, so I'd best get on with it. Now, I've been wanting to have an extended time in the new Cayenne since I drove the facelift up the hill at the Festival of Speed last year. And in that very short period of time, it's a car that impressed me a great deal. And I've always been a bit of a fan of the Cayenne. I had a good friend of mine had a V8 diesel Cayenne S a few years ago. There's a video on the channel about that car actually, and it was just a mega bit of kit. But I wanted to get my hands on this because the big SUV, the S in SUV, sport utility vehicles, so the really sporty ones, the high performance ones, I guess this car goes toe to toe with things like Audi's RSQ8, Lamborghini Urus, Aston Martin DBX. Those really big 4x4 sport utility vehicles have dynamic driving abilities that defy the laws of physics, and that is certainly the case for this car. As I've already mentioned, just shy of 740 horsepower. That is insane. But how do they drive really? What are they like really? One of the big challenges is they are quite expensive. This one in Arctic grey is beautifully spec'd. So let me walk you around a few of the things that make this car so special. Now, this car's been spec'd with the 22-inch GT design wheel, and I love the anthracite finish. But it's the brakes. I've mentioned how fast this car is. The discs, the front discs are 440 millimeters, and it's got a 10 piston caliper. On the back axle, you've got 410 millimeter disc with a 4 piston caliper. So there is no doubting that this car has some good anchors. Now, two of the big options lists ticked on this car is, first up, it's got Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control, or PDCC. That's around £2,500. But the other thing that really makes this car feel very nimble when you're handling it around bends and so on is it's also got the rear steer option, which is just over £1,300, and that makes a huge difference. Even if you hadn't seen the spec list, if you didn't know that that option was ticked, the first time you tip it into a corner, especially things like roundabouts and so on, you just think, wow, this car's really, really sharp. It's just turning so quickly, and you can feel it straight away. This is without doubt my favorite view of this car. I really like the coupe form for the Cayenne. There's a little bit of a compromise in the rear for headroom, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. But you've got the top of the black glass, you've got this little wing with these tiny winglets sticking out. I just think that looks really cool. A really nice lip spoiler. But then you've got these two central exhausts with this detailing on the inside. I think they look absolutely superb. And when you put this car into sport mode or sport plus mode, those things really come alive. I mentioned a couple of the big options. So the base price for this car, are you sitting down, £154,000. But if you add up all of the options on this car, it comes to £167,000. Now that is a lot of money. So it really does need to deliver. Let's have a check of the internal cabin space. We'll start with the seats behind the driver, shall we? Now, it is quite dark in this cabin because this Racetex lined headlining, above that is a carbon fibre roof. So there's no panoramic roof in the car, but that's going to do brilliant things for lowering the centre of gravity of the car. And then you've basically got just 2 seats in the back with this central tray. You've got a kind of dual height armrest, so you've got a place to put stuff there, a couple of drinks holders just there, climate controls there, you've got loads of space. And actually, I was really worried that the coupe format of this car would compromise the rear headroom, and it really doesn't. Most of my height is in my legs. I think I've said this on a few films before. I'm 6'3", but I've got very long legs, not such a high body, but yeah, plenty of space up here. And it's just the materials in here. You are surrounded by leather and Racetex, or Alcantara in non-Porsche parlance. A little bit of piano black, little touches of carbon fibre. It's very cool in here indeed. But it's there, it's the driver's area that's just proper special in this car. It's so nice in here. And I know for 170 odd thousand pounds or 153 base, you'd expect it to be right. But it's just a very, very well laid out cabin. Let's talk about these seats to start with. They look very comfort oriented seats, but they have fantastic support, both on the lower part of the seat and the side bolster. You really feel like you're getting into a bucket seat, but without the compromised comfort that sometimes you get with bucket seats. There is a huge amount of adjustment on the steering wheel, just in terms of how far it comes in and out and up and down. You can just bring it, I always like the steering wheel nice and close to me. You just get into a fantastic driving position. And then screen-wise, you've got a screen display in front which shows you your main instrument binnacles, and there's a number of different views that you can go through with that. And then you've got the main central screen, which at the moment I'm showing Apple CarPlay, but I can go into the Porsche settings and go through all of the various Porsche displays as well. And it's very, very familiar to me as a Porsche owner. I think Porsche really do, even their own native stuff is really, really good. And then what I can't see, but what the passenger can see, is this is a separate screen that can only be viewed by the passenger. When you look at it from the driver's seat, all you see is a piano black screen. When you look at it from there, you've got, again, a range of different displays, very similar to what I saw on the Taycan Turbo I had recently. The central part here, the gear lever's just here, very much like the Taycan, and the start-stop button's just over there. So there's no kind of gear knob in the middle, but I've got some physical buttons here for my climate control, a physical knob for the stereo volume. In here I've got a wireless charge mat for my phone. I've got a little place to put, I don't know, loose change or the keys. Again, in here I've got a little storage bin. There's just lots of nice things. And the guys that do the valeting for the Porsche press team cars, they always do these lovely marks with the Hoover and stuff. It just looks so nice in here. You almost don't want to sit in it in case you disturb all the marks on the Racetex. The dash is Racetex. I love the way it kind of goes round the air vents. Just a really special place. But this car is quite an interesting one. It's quite complex in a way. So in terms of drive modes, you've got a drive mode button on the main steering wheel here, and that goes through a number of different drive modes. So I've got an off-road mode, which is going to raise the ride height of the car. I'm not going to be practicing with that so much. It's more aimed at kind of gravel type stuff. You're not going to go massive off-roading, but you would always be surprised. Cayennes are very, very capable off-road, but this is a much more kind of sport and track oriented car, I think. You've then got an e-power mode, so you can force this car to run just on the electric motor. When you've got a full battery pack, you're going to get, you know, sort of 35 miles or so pure EV running. We're going to put that to the test. And then you've got a hybrid mode where it will sort itself out. But the really interesting, when you go into hybrid, you can have it run on auto, or you've got two modes here. One's called e-hold, which will hold the amount of energy in the battery pack to keep that range. Currently I've got 26 miles of electric range. It will hold on to that and not use any of it. And then you've also got, when you go into hybrid, you've got an e-charge, So what that will do is it allow you to recharge the battery as you're driving along, or you've got the option of plugging this in to a normal kind of Type 2 charger. And then you've got Sport and Sport Plus, and that's when the valves open in the exhaust and you start to really get all of that lovely twin turbo V8. Let's very briefly talk about what's under the bonnet, and then we're going to go for a drive. Unfortunately, it's not really a looker, is it, the engine? It's just a big plastic cover, but don't let its looks put you off, because in terms of what it delivers, now I'm going to use the spec sheet just to get all the numbers right, because honestly, so let's just talk about the internal combustion engine first off. It's a 4-litre twin turbo V8, and just on its own, the internal combustion engine produces 599 horsepower and 800 newton meters of torque. So without the electrical assistance, that is a mighty engine with mighty numbers. The electric motor on its own has 176 horsepower and 460 newton meters. And when you combine them together, it's not just a simple process of adding the numbers together. It doesn't quite work that way. As I said, it's 739 horsepower and 950 newton meters. That's an all-wheel drive platform and an 8-speed auto gearbox. And as I said, the numbers are 190 miles an hour top end and 3.6 seconds to 62, but it will do a combined electric only range of 44 miles. Apparently, we might have to put that to the test, and you can charge it up in a couple of hours. You just plug in a normal AC charger. It doesn't really need DC charging. And the WLTP fuel consumption number is 156.9 miles to the gallon. Yeah, I think we might need to have a chat about that. So what I propose, as it's very nearly dark here, is tomorrow we're going to head off to Bristol to go and see some really nice cars at a really nice venue. And I thought I'd take the Cayenne, and we'll put some of those numbers to the test and also put the performance to the test, because honestly, this thing is just off the charts. I mean, when I say off the charts, I really do mean off the charts. Well, let's start the review in e-Power, and it's a beautiful day today, especially compared with what the weather was like yesterday. So I've only got 18 miles left of e-Power range because I wasn't able to plug the car in overnight, which is what you really need to do to maximise that. And what I would say is, on electric power only, the car is well able to get up to the national speed limit, but it's really more aimed at driving into your local town, I don't know, do the school run, go to the shops, go to the train station, that kind of thing. It's not a performance EV at all. And what happens, especially if you're going uphill, if I depress the throttle too much, then the internal combustion engine kicks in. So the e-Power mode really is to maximise efficiency, or if you like, minimise petrol consumption in town driving and those types of conditions. I've got a journey of about 90 miles, so there's not really any point me trying to do that. Yeah, I can do the first 16 miles of that in e-Power, but really for that kind of journey, what I want to be doing is going into the hybrid mode. So I'll just turn the drive select mode up into hybrid, and then I've got the option, like I said before, about going into e-charge. And what that will do is the internal combustion engine will only kind of drive me forward and work with the electric motor, but it's also going to put some charge back into the battery, so I can build that 16 miles back up again, to the detriment of fuel consumption for sure. But yeah, let's get cracking on the drive. What I would say though straight away is I was really excited overnight about today's journey, not only because of the destination we're going to, which is really very cool, stay tuned for that, but I've just been looking forward to doing a long journey in this car because it's such a nice place to be. I've got to say the hybrid running is fun, but if I just stick it up into sport mode, ready for this? It's just insane, this car. It's so good, like so good. It sounds great, but it's just got so much punch. And instantly the car's transformed from feeling like a big, almost like a Defender-sized car, and suddenly I think I'm in a 911 or a Boxster or some small format Porsche. Clearly that's a stupid thing to say because I've got the higher ride height of an SUV. I'm looking over the hedges, not into them. But the way it just transforms dynamically from a big SUV with all the practicality and so on that brings into this dynamic feeling car is just otherworldly, absolutely otherworldly. And when you see the twisty road for 1.5 miles sign, you just smile because you know that that's when this car starts to come into its element, which it really shouldn't do. You shouldn't really look forward to corners when you're in a car like this because it's a big floaty boaty SUV, right? No, it's not. It's somehow agile and small and nimble, and that turn in with that rear steer assistance and then the punch out of the corner. Oh wow. That's why I was looking forward to this drive. Right there. Okay, let's put it up into, from hybrid, we'll put it up into Sport Plus. I'm going to push and hold down the gear selector to put it in manual. The little shift up notification, and this car is like a rocket ship straight away. Let's test those big 10-pot calipers up front. A lot of braking confidence, but it's the, for me, I think it's the power as you come out the corners. You've just got such a lot. The gear shifts are pretty crisp. You just have to be mindful of mass. It has a delicate feeling when you're driving down a road like this, but you also have to remember that it is a heavy car, so you just have to get all your braking done really early and not carry too much speed into the corners. I'm sure that it's capable beyond me, but oh, man alive, what a road this is. Unbelievable. I think we need to try a launch control, don't you? The really interesting thing, having been in the Taycan Turbo recently, and the launch in that is just it's mind-blowing. This isn't as fast, but I think there's something to do with the fact that it's got a V8 and it's got the noise, and you've got the revs being held before you drop your brake and just launch into the acceleration. Just makes it more special. It's not as quick to 60, but it's only missing out by a few tenths. But to get a car of this size up to the national speed limit that quickly, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. When the road gets a bit narrower like this, you do become very aware of the size of this car. I'm trying to kind of get my Porsche Boxster driving head coming down here in my car. You just have a bit more room in your lane to place the car, and it wouldn't maybe feel so claustrophobic. When you push on down a narrow country road like this in a big SUV, it becomes very apparent very quickly that you're in a wide and heavy and big car. I put it back into hybrid mode after my little blast in Sport Plus because yeah, that tends to have a bit of a negative impact on your MPG. So before I found that lovely road and had a bit of Yahoo, I was running at like 21 miles per gallon, which I know isn't great. I'm now down to 19, having had a bit of a splurge. So yeah, it on a longer journey, when you want to push on a little bit more, you cannot deny that this car has a 4-litre twin-turbo V8, weighs quite a lot, and kicks out, just from the internal combustion engine, around 600 horsepower. That has to come from somewhere, and it basically comes from burning dinosaur juice. So on shorter trips, where you're able to tap into that EV running. And interestingly, I've been doing the e-save thing all the way here, so I'm now back to 74% of battery and 30 miles of range. That got down to about 16 miles. So I have recuperated some electrical energy in the battery, and now I could deploy that. I've only got a few miles to go till I get to my destination, but I could run that for the next 20 or so miles and boost that MPG back up again. I think this conversation's a little bit academic though, because I'm not so sure too many people who buy this car are going to be that worried about MPG. You know, when you buy a car that's well over 150 grand, I think that becomes less of a concern. I think the electrical assistance to make this car go really fast is far more important than how far does it run on all EV running. On my way home after a very successful meeting, I really love this journey because the roads are just so lovely and the scenery is beautiful. It's that time of year where the trees are starting to turn golden brown and lose their leaves. It's my favourite time of year. But I'm now back in hybrid mode. I'm running e-charge to try and build the electric charge back up a little bit. One of the things I would say, having done that run in Sport Plus, is when you go into Sport or Sport Plus, you get an option up here on the dynamic chassis control to change the firmness of the suspension. And I would recommend for this kind of road just to drop it down into normal. The default in Sport is Sport, the default in Sport Plus is Sport Plus. No great shakes there. But Sport is quite firm and Sport Plus is even firmer. And I think normal just on a typical kind of road like this is just that nice kind of ride, and it's not wallowy. The car doesn't feel like it's rolling too much. It's still firm enough, but the other two are just a little bit too firm for me. They'd be amazing on track, I'm sure. So I'm going to drop it back into e-hybrid mode because that's great, and I'm going to go into e-charge again. In terms of final impressions of the car, honestly, so there's a couple of things. This particular car I'm reviewing is a huge amount of money, well outside of my budget. But Cayennes in particular, you don't have to be spending this kind of money on a new model to get the similar type of driving experience. But what I find amazing about Porsche is how they just have this ability to make any of their cars so engaging, so interactive, just have this special feeling about them. And this car, considering its size and power and performance, is just on another level. It's such a good car. It has such a great feel about it. And when you're in adverse conditions like this, little bit of rain, damp roads, it just gives you a huge amount of confidence. And you can come down a road like this, either 10 tenths, well, probably in this car about 6 tenths, and you'll still be breaking the speed limit, or just mooch like I'm doing it. It's a very Jekyll and Hyde kind of car. It's got almost 3 personalities really. But yeah, you can drive it around town and be nice and quiet and nice and smooth. The next mode is in the kind of hybrid running like I'm doing now. Whether you do that holding the battery state, charging it, or just running as a hybrid, it's still got a huge amount of performance really. And whenever you want to push on, when you see the road do that, stick it up into Sport, and you just got that V8 up front ready to deliver all the power you need. In terms of body style, this coupe format of the Cayenne's really grown on me. I think with the GT package, the twin exhausts and the little roof spoiler just make the car look fantastic. It doesn't compromise it too much inside at all. But when you get on a nice bit of road like this, what a thing. So, Cayenne, what a perfect car for my lifestyle. It's probably the only thing I would say is it's just a bit big. I think Macan would probably be the size of SUV I'd go for if I were buying a Porsche SUV. I don't need the massive amounts of passenger room inside. I know I ran that Defender 90 as a long-termer for 6 months and got on really well with that. But I think Macan would just probably be a little bit more usable, parking up in towns, going in car parks and that kind of thing. But if you want space and practicality and outright performance and good looks and noise and driver feel all in one car, you're gonna struggle to find better than this. If I compare it with an RSQ8, very similar kind of driving experience really. It's just the Porsche just feels a little bit sharper. And it's been a while since I've driven an Aston Martin DBX, but they're phenomenal things. They don't roll when you go around corners at all. It just amazes me that the chassis and the vehicle design engineers can build cars that are so dynamically capable in this form factor. It's a wonder of science. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. But if you enjoyed that one, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.